Hillary lift you into a van.
I think it's boxed Chardonnay for Hillary, isn't it? Or Barks Chardonnay for that.
A lozenge. She was always doing a lozenge.
Oh, hey, we're live. Hey there, Townhall Media across all of our social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube. Of course, a special hello to all of our VIP Gold members and viewers. I said members. It's Larry O'Connor here in the nation's capital. That right there is Chris Stigall in the suburbs of Philadelphia, where, let's face it, this presidential election will be determined. He is at Soul Joel's Comedy Club and Lounge, a live debate viewing event, which is associated with the Chris Stigall Show podcast. Is that not correct there, Chris Stigall? Welcome. Good to talk to you.
That's correct. Larry, thank you. Yes, a completely private event. Our first debate watch was canceled because it rained terribly the night of that disastrous debate. So I actually thought the rain was a blessing because I can't imagine all of us having gathered to watch that train wreck. So it didn't work out, and that was fine. The second was, of course, the vice presidential debate. And we had a raucous good time. Tonight in Philadelphia, this debate, the final one, happens to be opposite the Philadelphia Eagles on Thursday Night Football. Wow. So we'll see.
So wait, you're competing against the 1-5 Giants against the 1-4-1 Philadelphia Eagles. And it's still going to do better than the presidential debate. That's just how pathetic.
That's right. Well, and much like the Eagles, at 1-4, you're still leading the division somehow.
Huh? Yeah, exactly. It's that tie that really comes into play. All right, so Chris, listen, this is our pre-debate format preview show tonight across Townhall Media. Just so you know, we're not doing the Mystery Science Theater 3000 thing because, let's face it, we can't get a word in edgewise. When the debate begins, we're going to hand it off to the commission. Let me start out your analysis here, Chris Stigall. First of all, do you believe this, in fact, will be the last debate we witness sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates? Do you think that organization, as it currently stands, is now over?
No. And I'm sorry to say no. I was actually having this conversation yesterday with someone. I don't know that we will ever see a presidential campaign with the set on them that Donald Trump's has. I think the conventional wisdom is you just go along with the polite rules established. And I don't see I don't see anyone. I can't imagine anyone ever stepping up and saying, I'm not doing this. We're not participating if things don't change. Is there a name you can think of who might step into that role and fight like this? I can't think of him or her.
No, unless if he wins re-election and the Republican Party is emboldened to push back and say, yeah, we're not doing this anymore. Even Bob Dole called these people out as the never Trumper establishment hacks. Right. We got to find a new paradigm for presidential debates. But we should say, I predict this is done. I think he broke them, and they've been exposed for what they are. But we'll see what happens. Obviously, we've had some developing news really just in the last hour and a half here, Chris Stigall, that could very well affect this debate tonight and also the election in 12 days. Let me just tell you, I'm gonna list out the current trending stories right now on Twitter. And then you take it from there and tell me what Twitter is currently not showing as a trending story. Number one, Trump's $10 million loan to his 2016 campaign raises new questions. Number two, Joe Biden has amassed a ridiculous amount of fundraising money for his campaign. Number three, the 2016 deposition of Jeffrey Epstein's alleged accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, has been unsealed. And number four, debates 2020, Trump and Biden face off in the final debate. They seem to be missing a story there in the algorithm, Chris. What's developed that Twitter is missing?
That wasn't there a fella? I think I heard it. I was listening to my satellite radio on the way into the gig tonight. There was a fella, Bobulinski, I think, was given a press conference tonight about how he has extensive records of financial dealings with the Chinese and the Bidens. Is it that guy, maybe?
I believe there must be something missing in the way Twitter is, curating their top stories, because I believe you are right. This was an extraordinary press conference. He brought 3 cell phones with him to say that they're loaded with evidence. he specifically said, I have heard Vice President Joe Biden say that he never discussed Hunter Biden's business dealings. I mean, we've all seen that clip. And he said, that is false. I was at the table when he spoke in detail about these dealings. The fact of the matter is, there is now more on the record accounts, firsthand witness accounts, and corroborated physical evidence supporting this Hunter Biden story than there ever was for, well, let's just start with the Atlantic story about how Trump hates the military. Right? That took up all the oxygen for a week in the mainstream media, Chris. How long can they ignore this scandal?
The apparent answer is as long as you can continue to deny. I mean, you saw the footage the White House released today of Leslie Stahl and that 60 Minutes airing on Sunday. The White House released the full sit down, and Leslie Stahl just kept snapping, you can't prove it. That's not substantiated. You can't prove it.
Right.
Trump, and this is where I hope Trump has had some practice, because that's what Biden's going to come with tonight. You can't prove that. That's not been substantiated. I released my taxes. I love how I released my taxes is somehow indication that he hasn't funneled money somewhere for himself. Like, I don't think sophisticated money launderers run it through the traditional, W-2s. Come on.
Yes, exactly. Andrew McCarthy, the former assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York and a national economist, and hardly, a cheerleader for Team Trump or anything. He took to Twitter on this and said, no big payoffs in my tax returns. If that was a thing, we'd have to drop every criminal case in history. I mean, it is. I expected a response, but not that one.
That's fantastic.
So we don't expect the moderator tonight to beg Kristen Welker. We don't expect her to bring this story up at all, right?
Probably not. No. Which begs the question: then, how does Trump do it? I mean,
that's right. So much, how does he do it?
There's so much on Trump, right? There's so much expectation on how he does this and how he's got so much riding on him. And I think there's so many expectations. Don't be too aggressive, but say it this way. I mean, if I had a nickel for every piece of advice I've seen this man receive unsolicited in the last week about how he needs to approach tonight's debate, if he listened to all of that, he'd be so in his head he wouldn't be able to speak tonight. So that's my fear is Trump is like, screw you all. I'm doing it my way because that's the way I roll. I don't know what that means.
We'll see. He has got to work it in. I took callers today this afternoon saying, what's your advice for the president? Of course, because he needs more advice. Somebody called in and said, you know what? All he's got to do is every time he turns to Joe Biden or refers to him, just call him the big guy. That's all.
I love it. I love that.
Over here, right? He's the big guy.
I actually had Hogan Gidley was on the show today, the press secretary for the campaign. And I told him that. I said, oh, please just let him walk out and say, big guy. Hi,
hey, big guy.
Big guy. Just hey, big guy. That's how you should start. Please start that way.
Hey, I'm just curious, Joe, before we get started, what's the current Chinese yuan to US dollar exchange rate? I'm sure you checked it out before we came out here, just to be on top of things.
Well, my Chinese accountants and I haven't met this week, so I don't know those figures, but I'll get back to you. My CEO of my family company hasn't run the numbers lately.
What about demeanor tonight, Chris? Do you expect the president? I mean, I don't think Trump can. I don't think he's capable of not being Trump. I think, but I wonder if he's going to consciously try to dial it back a little bit from last debate. Do you have a feel for that?
I do think he will. I think he knows he came on strong. I think he's heard that enough that that'll be in his mind. What I hope he's capable of doing, although it's not really his style because it might be a little schmaltzy, it would be lovely if he were able to tap into that, hey, American people, I'm talking to you now. I'm not talking about the crazy old guy with the Chinese business. I'm talking to you. I wish there were an element of that. And if I were to give him some advice, I would say, you may not like me. I understand that. But I'm more in keeping with our founders' idea of what this country is supposed to be. I'm an interloper. I'm here for a period of time, I hope just 8 years, and then I'm going back to the private sector. This guy has done nothing but sponge off of you the entirety of his life, and now we think has enriched himself with foreign governments to boot. So
Yeah.
I know you may not like me, but I'm going home in 4 more years. This guy is you're gonna have to pry government and the taxpayer dollars from his cold, dead hands. Good night, everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I kind of wish he could tunnel vision it like that. I don't know that he will, though.
Yeah. Well, I wonder, one thing I noticed about the last debate, I don't know if you noticed this, but he employed a couple of his go-to lines that really resonated and worked well at his rallies, and he did reuse them. I think the most effective line that he had on the last debate was, "I've done more in the last 3.5 years than Biden's done in 47 years." That's a great line. And he honed it during these rallies. He had a line yesterday in North Carolina that I want to repeat to you because I think it is one of his most effective, and it really does address one of the biggest drawbacks to Donald Trump, or one of the things that I know you and I hear a lot from voters, and that's this, and I hope he uses it tonight. He says, "If I don't sound like a typical Washington politician, it's because I'm not a politician." And I think it's so smart and pithy in that everybody's complaint about him is his style and his language and his approach and his attitude. And he's like, yeah, I'm different from this guy because I'm not like this guy. I haven't been doing this for 50 years. So,
That's exactly right. That's his greatest attribute. Like, he's leaving. And, it's funny. Yeah. It's like, I wonder if there's going to be some sense of secret melancholy someday, whether it's at the end of this year or it's the end of 4 years from now. Donald Trump will go away. He'll be gone. He won't be president anymore. He will go back to his private life, and we'll likely have somebody that's far more boring and less interesting. And I don't wonder if everyone will be standing around staring at the wall going, I kind of miss that loud guy. What the hell happened? This used to be fun to watch. Yeah. I really do. I wonder if there's an element of that.
Including cable news shows, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah. One guy that
he's a cottage industry.
Yes, he is. One guy that we can't get rid of. In fact, you talk about how, he'll leave. President Obama has not left. In fact, he lives about 5 miles from the White House. He still won't leave Washington, for God's sake. And he was in your neck of the woods there in Philadelphia yesterday for a rally. First, I'd love to ask you about this and what the reaction to your listeners at The Answer there in Philadelphia this morning had about this. First, one political observation from you. Here we are 12 days from the election, and one of the greatest arguments on behalf of Joe Biden being the Democrat nominee during the primaries was, listen, I'm the kid from Scranton. I can get those Pennsylvania voters back. I mean, that was a strong argument, and I think that it swayed a lot of people in the Democrat establishment. If we're 12 days out and he needs to bring out the big guns like Barack Obama to rally the troops in Pennsylvania, what does that tell you about his standing in a state that should have been a no-brainer for him?
Well, that's the first most obvious thing. You're right. Is why does Barack Obama come in a dozen days before the election to Philadelphia? Is anybody in doubt that Philadelphia is going to go for Joe Biden? Of course we're not. So what does that tell us?
Yeah.
That tells us they're concerned that people aren't enthused about Granddad. Let me show you something. I don't know if you can, this might be tough to do over the phone, but let me hold this up. I'm sorry for the picture. Is that my picture or yours? Okay.
That's yours. Yeah, you're a little digitized, but I can see it. Yes, a nice silhouette, very dramatic with the sun down there and the clouds. Very good. Yeah.
So this is Barack Obama tweeted his visit out. So there he is. Right. You can see him
talking to a single person. Yes, with a mask. Yeah. That's impressive.
Here's another one he tweeted out.
That's
sorry for the picture quality.
Like 4 journalists in a room, like a school room or something. That's impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, and then this one. Oh man, sorry for the picture.
Well, that's
I don't know.
Digitized now. Oh, there he is.
Oh, there we go. There you go.
He looks angry there. He looks very angry. That's angry Barack Obama. That's.
So that was his tweet. His tweet said. And again, sorry for this. I'm just doing this on the fly. Great to be back in Philly today. I'm fired up and ready to go. Now, what did those 4 pictures have in common, if you remember what you were looking at? Him.
Yeah, all him. Not voters.
Just him.
Not. Yeah. No crowds. Well, there was the one little girl. Yeah.
The Lion King. Yeah. Like, what is that? What is the godlike, I'm looking up into the heavens.
Someday, Simba, all this will be yours. Yes.
What is that? But anyway, my point is, this guy, it's me, look at me, it's all about me. And Donna Brazil today on Fox, Bill Hemmer says, hey, Wilmington's just down the road. Like, Joe couldn't get in the SUV and join his pal Barack in South Philly for a couple of seconds, to which Donna Brazil snapped, Barack Obama doesn't need Joe Biden.
Wait a minute. What? Who's running again? Who?
I swear to you, she said it. I got to go find the tape for the morning. I don't know if anybody else has played that tape, but that was her response. He doesn't need Joe Biden. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know, man. It doesn't it really, honestly, and I don't mean to sound conspiratorial or whatever, but have you ever seen anything like this in your life? Like the guy taking whole weeks off? Yeah.
It's the weirdest ever. And listen, it's either going to be one of the most astounding, brilliant strategies that basically I've heard Rush say this, that he has set himself up to be generic Democrat. You know what I mean? It's like a year ago, the polls were Trump versus generic Democrat. And then when you actually said, like Trump versus Elizabeth Warren, it's a different story. Trump versus, they nominated generic Democrat, and he is fulfilling that. He is generic Democrat. It doesn't matter what he says. It's not about him.
I saw your tweet, which I agree with completely, and I said the same thing this morning on the show. If you're Bernie Sanders or you're Elizabeth Warren, how pissed are you? How furious are you? And because, these are men and women, Bernie, AOC, Tulsi Gabbard, Elizabeth Warren, less so Kamala, but I'll throw her in there just to be generous. These are people I don't necessarily believe are corrupt. I think they're principled. I think they're loons, but I think they're principled, and I don't think they're criminals. And they want to be the nominee. They legitimately ran their asses off to be the nominee. And what did the party do? The Democrat Party picked a second crime family to coronate instead. I would be out of my mind if I'm a Democrat voter.
Yep. And not only that, but now Bernie was also in Pennsylvania yesterday. Bernie and Elizabeth Warren and Pete Buttigieg and even AOC, they are now stuck for the next 12 days having to implore their people to come out and vote for him. And I don't think their heart's going to be in it. I can't imagine their heart will be in it. This is going to be fascinating. It really is. And I wonder, how much do you think this debate matters? Do you think it moves the needle?
Oh, I think this Bobulinski thing sure could. I mean, the unfortunate thing is what they're saying now, 45 million ballots have already been cast. And by the way, if that doesn't show you why this early voting and this mail-in scam that's being run shouldn't happen, it's outrageous. I mean, this news we're late to it. And I don't know why it's late. I mean, I have real questions about the FBI sitting on it. And, your friend of mine, Lee Smith, I had on the show today, he was livid with the FBI. He thinks this is, Chris Wray. This is he thinks Chris Wray is worse than Comey, he even said.
I'll tell you where I think it does make a difference. I think you're right. I think it makes a difference. And I think the debate makes a difference too, because one thing has really stuck out to me in all the polls, and I know you've been covering the polls very similar to I have, where you're really looking at certain state polls, not the national poll, because it's literally meaningless and all of that. But what has always stuck out to me about these polls for the last 6 months is there's still anywhere between 8 to 10% who claim they are undecided. Chris, how are you undecided about these two people at this point? I mean, honest, how you have a neutral position and it's a coin flip, but here I think I figured out the answer to that. And I think the undecided are people who are inclined to vote for Trump, but they still don't feel great about it. And there's something, whatever it is, the mannerisms, what they say, the stigma, whatever it is. And his performance tonight could put all of that to rest. He could be like, agreed. It's okay. You can vote for me. It's okay.
Yes. And here's Biden's comeback to the corruption charge. Yeah, well, he has a Chinese bank account.
Right.
To which Trump effectively says, I'm a private business person. You've been in the Senate for 1,000 years. We're different. And the American people get that. What a childlike response to your corruption. You have a bank account in China. Yeah,
Right.
and I was a private guy 3 years ago. Like, I think the American people, if this plays out the way I pray it does tonight, yeah, I think there are people that go, "Wow, that guy's really dirty." Like, I don't like Trump at all, but Biden's dirty.
Well, and also and Trump can't say this, but I think that it is implied if Biden were to make that argument. The real response, I mean, you're right. That is absolutely the response. I was a multimillionaire with entertainment interests and clothing line interests and hotels and buildings. And yes, that's what happens. In fact, didn't he manufacture a ton of his like clothing line and ties and things like that in China? I mean, there is.
Yep.
I actually happen to know when you do business with China, you have to actually exchange money through Chinese. I mean, that's just the law. You have to. But the other aspect of that is this. Whenever a Biden supporter says, well, their response to Biden's corruption is, well, Trump is corrupt too. Well, basically what they're saying is Biden's no different than Trump in that regard. And if that's the response, that removes 50% of the reason why Biden is running. Right? I mean, that's right. The argument is that when you say that Biden's as bad as Trump, that's right. And now where are we? Oh, okay. Well, they're both corrupt, but this guy's actually done something.
Right. Yeah, Trump like if that's your yeah. I'm the thinnest kid at fat camp. You know, that's your argument. I'm the thinnest kid at fat camp. Congratulations, Porky.
That's right. All right. Well, we are just about a little over 5 minutes away from handing the debate off to the Commission on Presidential Debates, and I want to remind everybody watching across the Townhall media platforms, please watch and follow our live blog. Katie Pavlich and Matt Vespa and Guy Benson and the whole team, the great political editors and analysts at Townhall, will be commenting as we go during tonight's debate. Keep it there and constantly be refreshing and taking a look at what they're doing. All of their tweets and all their comments will be cataloged right there, and you can actually watch the debate on the stream right there on the page as well. The moderator's role tonight, we haven't talked much about her. What lesson do you think she learned from Chris Wallace?
I have a mute button, and he didn't. I don't know. I mean, it's a. Again, I hate to sound like I know the left always suggests this is just whining and complaining about a fixed fight, but I mean this woman's family, they're active partisan Democrats in Philadelphia. Like, she was raised in an actively partisan Democrat donating family. We've seen her performance in the White House press corps. She's a hostile, sniping partisan. And that's okay, but my gosh, do we all have to pretend now that she's Edward R. Murrow? It just offends my sensibilities.
Knowing what happened to Chris Wallace and knowing that the Trump campaign have already sort of laid a marker down, does this actually, she's very young, she has a future in journalism, she could be an anchor someday or what have you. Does she actually consciously and deliberately go out of her way to be even-handed tonight? Or does she just say, fuck it? No, this is...
the latter. Look, Savannah Guthrie. Look at Savannah Guthrie, who's supposed to be the cheery, good morning, have a cup of coffee, let's chit chat about the Hollywood gossip of the day, Today Show chick. She shows up and she's Trump slayer. And what does she get? Backpats and laudatory praise. They love her. Savannah Guthrie. Saturday Night Live actually, they called her surprise badass Savannah Guthrie. No, this is like a trophy hunt. And if Kristen Welker can come away tonight with Donald Trump's scalp, they'll erect a statue in her honor in the White House press corps.
I think you're probably right. Also, real fast, I have two more questions for you, and then we're going to hand it off to the debate commission. Number one, do you love the baller move of Trump inviting Bobulinski not only to the debate, but having him sitting there in the audience with it's like the move last year with Paula Jones 4 years ago.
I love it. The only thing I'd love more is if he were on a laptop. or texting.
Or with a stack of foreign bills, just making it rain in the background.
A couple of Asian guys over his shoulder having noodles.
All right, and then finally, we've touched on it a little bit, but the mute button, the notorious mute button, if it is employed at a moment where Donald Trump feels like it was inappropriate and unfair to employ, what do you expect the president to do if he is muted during this debate?
I think you'll see I think he'll throw his hands up a lot. I think he'll probably walk away. I can see him going, nah, there they go again, walking, doing the WWE, just hit a guy over the head with the chair move that he likes to do, that kind of pacing thing he does. I can kind of see him,
that's
in
true.
frustration.
No, yeah,
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how he behaves.
I think just for a wink and a nod to conservative Republicans, wouldn't you love him to pull a Reagan? And you could like, if he shouts it, it'll show up in Biden's microphone, and he could, I paid for this microphone, NBC, or something like that.
Or pull out a bullhorn. I won't be silenced.
Right. Like Obama in Philly yesterday. Yes, that would be great.
You're right. Like a bullhorn with the presidential seal on the side of it.
Or he'll just say, his mic gets muted, and he'll say, you know what, I'll just tweet it. Starts tweeting it out. Here's what I was going to say.
Yeah, that's right. In the conclusion of my opening 2 minutes, I'd like you to know that when I'm muted, just check Twitter.
Right.
I like that. That's exactly. Very smart.
Or use his intro, his beginning statement to say that. All right. We are just moments away from
tweeting my own debate. Yeah, that's great.
Right. Joe smells of mothballs. I don't know what. All right, that concludes our Town Hall Media pre-debate coverage. Thank you so much for joining us. We are moments away from the final debate of the 2020 presidential campaign. As always, thanks for being here, and keep it at Town Hall across our entire family of sites. You are, in fact, the most informed voters in the entire country, and we need that, because this is a battle, my friends, and thank you for being a part of it and allowing us to lead you in that battle as much as we can. It is truly an honor. Chris Stigall, live from Philadelphia, Soul Joe's Comedy Club and Lounge. Give a big COVID distanced high five to all your listeners there from the Chris Stigall Show podcast. And thanks for joining us. You have a good time at the debate tonight. I'm sure you will.
It's a gorgeous night. I brought a cigar. I'm going to go outside, socially distant, enjoy a cigar, and watch the show. Can't wait.
All right.
Good night,
and honestly, as a fan of the team formerly known as the Redskins, I don't know what to do with the Giants and Eagles, other than I hope that it ends in a scoreless tie and career-ending injuries for everyone.
Hey, given the year we've had, and as bad as the division is, it may. It just may. Right. Or they'll all get COVID and have to end it at halftime.
In the meantime, watch the debate, watch our live blog, and then you can watch the second half of the football game. Thanks, Chris. Good night, everybody.